Konnichiwa. Welcome to the 24th lesson of the Basic Japanese series for beginners. In this video, you will learn how to construct the nai form of verbs, which is used to express the negative form in the plain style of speech. You will also learn the sentence pattern ending with nai de kudasai, which is used to ask or instruct the listener not to do something. And by the end of this lesson, you will be able to use all of them and frame sentences on your own. So please watch it till the end. Before I go to the main topic, let us see a small portion of the hiragana chart. The first row comprises of a, I, U, E, O, and just below that we have ka, ki, ku, ke, ko, and below that we have sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on. The E line has I, ki, shi, chi, and so on, with all of them ending with the sound E. On similar lines, the A line will have A, K, Se, Te, and so on, with all of them ending with the sound A. Next, let us see the syllables which are in the A line, that is, just before the E line. For example, the syllable ka is just before ki, sa is just before shi, ta is just before chi, and so on. Keeping these in mind, now let us go to the groups of verbs. Verbs in Japanese change their forms, that is, they conjugate, and they are divided into three groups according to the types of conjugation. In the verbs of group 1, the syllable preceding mas ends with the E line of the hiragana chart. For example, kaimasu, nomimasu, kakimasu, and so on. In most of the verbs of group 2, the syllable preceding mas ends with the A line of the hiragana chart. For example, oshiemasu, tabemasu, misemasu, and so on. But in this group, there are also some verbs which end with the E line, which I will discuss later. The verbs of group 3 include shimasu, the combination of nouns denoting actions, and shimasu, like benkyou shimasu, kakunin shimasu, etc. And the other verb is kimasu. Next, let me go to the nai form of verbs, that is, the verbs which have nai at the end. For example, for the verb tabemasu, which means to eat, its nai form is tabe nai, which has nai at the end. And this non-past negative, which is in the plain style of speech, means not to eat. On similar lines, for the verb nomimasu, which means to drink, its nai form is noma nai, which has nai at the end. And this non-past negative, which is in the plain style of speech, means not to drink. In fact, in Japanese, many sentence patterns use this nai form of verbs. For example, to ask someone not to do something, or to express that something must be done, or something need not be done, and so on. But before you learn them, you must know how to change the verbs ending with mas to their respective nai forms. Now, let us see the rules to construct the nai form. In case of group 1 verbs like ikimasu, which means to go, the syllable before mas will always be a syllable that resides in the E line of the hiragana chart, and this has to be replaced by the syllable that comes just before it in the A line. So, the first step is to remove mas. The second step is to identify the last syllable before mas. The third step is to recall the syllable that resides in the A line just before it. And the fourth step is to add this A line syllable along with nai to the stem. And then you will get the nai form. Now that we have taken the verb ikimasu as an example, let us follow the steps one by one and the construction will become clear. The first step is to remove mas, and if we do that, we will get iki. The second step is to identify the last syllable before mas, which is ki. The third step is to recall the syllable which resides in the A line just before it. As you know, the order in hiragana chart is ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. So the syllable which resides in the A line just before ki is ka. And the last step is to add this ka along with nai to the stem. So we will get ika nai, which means not to go. Let us see some more examples. For the verb nomimasu, which means to drink, on removing mas, we will get nomi. And the last syllable before mas is mi. Now let us recall the syllable which resides in the A line just before mi. You know the order in hiragana chart is ma, mi, mu, me, mo. And the syllable which resides in the A line just before mi is ma. So let us add this ma along with nai to the stem. And we will get noma nai, which means not to drink. On similar lines, for machimas, which means to wait, we will get mata nai. And for kaerimas, which means to return or go home, we will get kaera nai. Actually, there is an additional rule that you must remember, and it is applicable when the syllable before mas is the vowel e, which is not attached to any consonant. And in such a case, we have to change e to va and then add va along with nai to the stem. Let me give you a few examples and the rule will become clear. For the verb kaimasu, which means to buy, on removing mas, we will get kai. And the last syllable before mas is e, which is not attached to any consonant. We have to change it to va and then add va along with nai to the stem. So in case of kaimas, we will get kavanai. On similar lines, for suimas, which means to smoke, we will get suvanai. And for tsukaimas, which means to use, we will get tsukavanai. In case of group 1 verbs, there is also one exception which has to be remembered. For the verb arimas, which means to exist or be present when referring to inanimate things, the nai form is just nai, which means not existing or not present. So, if someone asks you if you have any questions, and if you don't have any, then instead of saying arimasen, you can just say nai desu. Next, let us see the rules in case of group 2 verbs like tabemasu, which means to eat. We have to replace mas with nai, and it is as simple as that. On replacing mas with nai, we will get tabenai, which means not to eat. On similar lines, for mimas, which means to watch or see, we will get minai. And for karimas, which means to borrow, we will get karinai. Next, let us see the rules in case of group 3 verbs like shimas, which means to do. Even here, we have to simply replace mas with nai. On replacing mas with nai, we will get shinai, which means not to do. For the combination of nouns denoting actions and shimas like benkyo shimasu, which means to study, we will get benkyo shinai, which means not to study. On similar lines, for sodan shimasu, which means to consult, we will get sodan shinai, which means not to consult, and so on. Now, in case of group 3 verbs, there is one exception which has to be remembered. For the verb kimasu, which means to come, the nai form is konai, which means not to come. Next, let us see how to use the nai form to create simple expressions in Japanese. The sentence pattern ending with "mi nai de kudasai" is used to ask or instruct the listener not to do something. Let me give you a few examples and the usage will become clear. The verb suimasu means to smoke, and the nai form is suvanai. By adding de kudasai to it, we will get suvanai de kudasai, which means please don't smoke. And to say please don't smoke cigarettes here, in Japanese it will be koko de tabako suvanai de kudasai. Let me go to the next example. The verb wasuremasu means to forget, and the nai form is wasurenai. By adding de kudasai to it, we will get wasurenai de kudasai, which means please don't forget. And to say please don't forget today's homework, in Japanese it will be kyou no shukudai o wasurenai de kudasai. Let me go to the next example. The verb nakushimasu means to lose, and the nai form is nakusanai. By adding de kudasai to it, we will get nakusanai de kudasai, which means please don't lose. And to say please don't lose the room's key, in Japanese it will be heiya no kagi o nakusanai de kudasai. Let me go to the next example. The verb tsukaimasu means to use, and the nai form is tsukavanai. By adding de kudasai to it, we will get tsukavanai de kudasai, which means please don't use. And to say please don't use my chair, in Japanese it will be watashi no isu o tsukavanai de kudasai. Let me go to the next example. The verb savarimasu means to touch, and the nai form is savaranai. By adding de kudasai to it, we will get savaranai de kudasai, which means please don't touch. And to say please don't touch this machine, in Japanese it will be kono kikai ni savaranai de kudasai. Next, let us learn how to translate simple English sentences to Japanese. The first sentence is, please don't take an off tomorrow. Tomorrow is ashita, and to take an off is yasumimasu. Since it is a request not to take an off, we have to use the nai de kudasai pattern. And since the nai form of yasumimasu is yasumanai, the translation will be ashita yasumanai de kudasai. Let us go to the second sentence. Factory is kojo, and to take photos is shashin o torimasu. Since the nai form of torimasu is toranai, the translation will be kojo de shashin o toranai de kudasai. Let us go to the third sentence. Old is furui, file is fairu, and use is tsukaimasu. Since the nai form of tsukaimasu is tsukavanai, the translation will be furui fairu o tsukavanai de kudasai. Let us go to the fourth sentence. Now is ima, room is heiya, and enter is hairimasu. Since the nai form of hairimasu is hairanai, the translation will be ima heiya ni hairanai de kudasai. Let us go to the fifth sentence. This is kono, window is mado, and open is akemasu. Since the nai form of akemasu is akenai, the translation will be kono mado o akenai de kudasai. Let us go to the sixth sentence. Specification is shio and change or modify is henko shimasu. Since the nai form of henko shimasu is henko shinai, the translation will be shio o henko shinai de kudasai. Let us go to the last sentence. AC or air conditioner is aircon and turn on is tsukemasu. Since the nai form of tsukemasu is tsukenai, the translation will be aircon o tsukenai de kudasai. All these examples are for only one sentence pattern. Like this, there are many sentence patterns which use the nai form, and I will try to discuss them in the coming lessons. So that is it for now. I hope this video was useful. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. And if you found the video good, give it a thumbs up and share it with others. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.